The calm ocean. That morning, the sea looked flawless. No wind. No rolling waves. Just golden sunlight gliding across the surface, like glass stretched tight over something vast and unknowable below. The men aboard the Sea Raven called it a lucky day. The kind of day hunters dream about. Clear skies, smooth waters, and prey lurking just beneath. A juvenile orca, young, rare, and vulnerable. But the ocean was never theirs to claim. And orcas never forget. Beneath that polished silence, something stirred. Not from instinct, but from memory. Not wild, but calculated. Because orcas don't scream when they strike. They wait. They listen. And when the moment comes, they answer. If stories like this haunt you, subscribe to W Wildlife Documentary and stay until the very end. Because what unfolded in those final minutes wasn't just terrifying, it rewrote everything we thought we knew about the wild. They said the ocean was calm that morning. Unnaturally calm. The Sea Raven cut across the glassy surface like a blade through silk, its steel hull gleaming under the pale morning sun. No wind. No crashing waves. Only silence and light. From afar, it looked almost serene, a fishing vessel heading out for another routine haul. But this wasn't fishing. And this crew wasn't after tuna or cod. They were here for something the sea had never given willingly. At the helm stood Jack Renard, a man whose name still echoes in the darker corners of marine trade. Broad-shouldered, sun-scarred, and cold as stone. Jack built his empire on one thing: results. Orca calves, young and healthy, sold for millions on the underground market. Marine parks in Asia, private collectors, even research institutions, none asked questions. They just paid. Behind him, 6 men moved like clockwork in the pale morning glow. A sonar operator. A tranquilizer marksman. An animal handler. Each had done this before. Each knew how it ended: quick, efficient, profitable. But something about this morning felt different. It wasn't the sky, soft blue and cloudless. It wasn't the water, so still it mirrored their faces like glass. It was in the silence. A silence that didn't feel peaceful, but expectant. "Deploy the bait," Jack barked. Buckets of frozen fish blood and chopped seal meat hit the water, bleeding red across the surface. The sonar pulsed, low, rhythmic bursts mimicking the cries of stranded seals. Beneath the hull, speakers throbbed, sending signals into the deep. Jack lit a cigarette, his calm masking the tension in his eyes. He scanned the horizon. Nothing. Not yet. Smoke curled in the crisp air as he muttered, "This ocean acts tame when it wants something." The men chuckled, blind to the faint shimmer below, blind to the fact that something was already listening. To them, it was just a good morning. The kind of morning when men feel invincible. The kind the ocean loves to ruin. It didn't take long. The first sign was subtle, a ripple far off the port side, barely breaking the mirrored surface. The sonar operator lifted a hand. Movement. Large. Slow. Jack didn't flinch. He leaned forward, eyes narrowing into the glare. Another ripple. Then a shadow, long, fluid, unmistakable. "Bring it closer," he ordered. The bait trail had worked. From the depths, a young orca calf, barely a year old, rose like a phantom, chasing the sound of a seal pup in distress. Its sleek black body shimmered beneath the sunlit waves, white patches glowing faintly. "There you are," Jack whispered. "Come to Papa." At first the calf circled cautiously, hunger warring with instinct. But curiosity won. It drifted closer. The tranquilizer specialist steadied his weapon at the bow, scope locked. "Wait," Jack muttered, tracking the calf's every move. The orca surfaced once. Just once. And in that breath of a moment, the dart flew. The capture, it was clean. The orca let out a faint, startled cry before slipping back beneath the surface. Within seconds, its movements slowed, growing weak, disoriented. The men scrambled to the winch. Hooks dropped. Ropes tightened. Metal groaned as the calf was hoisted half out of the water, limp and blinking. Cheers erupted on deck. One shot. You see that? The handler laughed. This little guy's gonna pay off my truck. They snapped photos, recorded video, sent confirmation through a locked satellite phone. Jack didn't smile, but pride lifted his chest. He lit another cigarette, watching the young whale sway in the sling. Then he froze. A glint far beyond the bow. A reflection. A black fin, tall, jagged, broke the surface. Then vanished. He said nothing. Just kept smoking. Behind him, the calf moaned, a soft, pitiful sound. Not pain, but absence. They thought they had won. They hadn't even begun to lose. The celebration didn't last. By the time the calf was secured in its makeshift holding cradle, the light over the ocean had shifted. Not darker, just different. The kind of light that made colors colder, as if the sea had lost a little warmth. Below deck, the sonar pulsed steadily. But something was off. Jack, the operator called, tapping the screen. We're picking up interference. Low frequency, but strong. Might be trench echo or, the monitor flickered. The noise wasn't mechanical. It wasn't static. It was rhythmic. Slow. Pulsing like a heartbeat. Above, the men carried on with their checks. Voices low. Movements routine. But the ocean had changed. The waves no longer carried the free rhythm of morning. The water felt thick, heavy, still. Then came the first bump. Soft. Barely noticeable. A gentle nudge beneath the hull, like something brushing against the boat. One crewman leaned over the rail. Driftwood, he muttered, though his own voice betrayed doubt. Jack looked up from his clipboard. Nothing drifts out this far. A second bump. Louder. More direct. The laughter faded. Metal groaned beneath their boots, the ship exhaling as though under pressure. No one spoke. In the distance, the sky stayed clear, the sun casting silver streaks across the sea. But the silence had shifted. It was no longer peaceful. It was heavy. Pressurized. As if the world itself was holding its breath. Then they heard it. A groan. Not made by man. Not by machine. A low vibration rising from beneath the vessel. Not through speakers, but through the bones of the ship itself. It wasn't noise. It was communication. A voice from below. The handler's hands trembled. That's not the calf. Jack moved to the railing. He looked down into the deep blue. He saw nothing, but he felt everything. Pressure behind his eyes. A stillness in his chest. A knowing. Something was watching. Measuring. Choosing. He turned back to the crew. Stay alert, he said. His voice was steady, but carried unease. No panic. No yelling. Just command. The sea had sent a message. Gentle. Subtle. Almost polite. But unmistakable. They had crossed a line. And the ocean had noticed. Not every warning comes with thunder. Some arrive softly, before the storm begins. It started with a shape. Just one. A sleek black arc breaking the water a few dozen yards off the stern. Then another. Then three more. Silent. Deliberate. Coordinated. The men gathered at the rails. Eyes wide. Voices hushed. They're back, someone whispered. But these Orcas weren't passing through. They weren't feeding or playing. 6, maybe 7, glided in broad arcs around the sea raven, circling with unnerving precision. Their movements were smooth. Too smooth. Effortless. Too effortless. Jesus, the sonar operator muttered. They're forming up. Jack stood at the center of the deck, arms crossed, jaw tight. His eyes tracked the fins dipping and rising in rhythm. No splashing. No sound. Just formation. Almost military. One young crewman, Owen, tried to laugh it off. Maybe they're here for the little one, he said, nodding toward the sedated calf swaying in its sling like a cradle. No one answered. Because deep down, they knew, this wasn't curiosity. This was coordination. Cut the sonar, Jack ordered. Turn off the pulse. Everything. The hum stopped. The boat fell silent. And that's when they noticed the absence. The ocean wasn't moving anymore. Not rocking. Not swaying. Not churning. It had stilled. Like a surface stretched tight over something vast and waiting. A heavy knock echoed from beneath the stern. The sound didn't make the men jump. It made them freeze. All eyes turned to Jack. Could be a warning, someone whispered. No, Jack said, voice steady but changed. The edge of certainty was gone. That wasn't a warning. That was a statement. More fins appeared. The ring tightened. The Orcas weren't hunting fish. Not seals. They were hunting the boat. They're boxing us in, the handler said, his voice cracking. No one knew what to do. Owen leaned over the rail for a better look. And then it happened. A shadow. Massive. Sudden. It surged upward from the depths, slamming the hull with a deep, wet boom. The boat lurched. Owen lost his balance. His hands clawed at empty air, then he was gone. Swallowed by spray and silence. The splash faded almost immediately. No scream. No struggle. Just water. The ring of Orcas shifted, closing ranks as if sealing off the space he had occupied. Jack didn't move. He didn't call for help. Something inside him had already shifted. A recognition buried deep in the primal corners of his mind. They weren't hunting. They were reclaiming. This was no longer a crew at sea. This was a sentence, being carried out, one circle at a time. The sea didn't roar. It struck. Without warning, the sea raven jerked sideways. A massive force slammed into its starboard flank, hurling 2 men across the deck. Metal screamed. Crates toppled. The calf in the sling cried out, dazed and broken. Get back. Off the rails. Jack shouted, but too late. A second impact came, this time from below. The stern lifted, the entire boat rising before crashing back with a bone-jarring thud. The sound was deafening. The ocean had come alive. And it wasn't whispering anymore. Panic broke loose. The crew scattered, slipping on wet steel, shouting over one another, clutching at whatever gear they could grab. Mateo, the youngest, fumbled with a lifeboat, lowering it toward the water. But the moment it touched, a black shape surged beneath, splintering it in half with one precise strike. What the hell is happening? Mateo screamed. They're sinking us, Jack snarled, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the water. They're organized. Then Cairo appeared. Not breaching. Not leaping. Rising. Slowly. Monumental. His jagged dorsal fin glistened. His immense body surfaced like a dark monument rising from the abyss, shadow blotting out the sun. And then he dove. Silence. Every man held his breath. The hull buckled inward. A blast of water shot up through the floor grates as Cairo struck from below. One engine blew, an echoing detonation, smoke and panic tearing across the deck. A steel toolbox flew. The ship tilted. Harris, the mechanic, lunged toward the emergency shut-off panel. He never made it. In a blur of black and white, Cairo erupted beside the vessel. With terrifying speed, he launched himself halfway onto the deck. The impact knocked Harris backward, straight into the waiting jaws below. The Orca didn't thrash. He didn't tear. He simply took. Blood sprayed against the hull, hot, immediate. The crew froze. Eyes wide. Chests heaving. This wasn't random. Every strike was precise. Controlled. Not meant to destroy the boat, not yet. Meant to unmake the people on it. Drop the calf, Jack barked. Drop it now. They scrambled to release the sling. The calf slipped back into the water, dazed, weak. But the circle didn't open. Cairo surfaced again. He looked at the calf. Then at the boat. And he chose the boat. A message. No trade. No forgiveness. No mercy. The sea raven groaned under another crushing blow, spinning sideways. Water rushed across the deck. Someone screamed for help, then vanished, dragged under. The ocean didn't need to shout. It was speaking now, through weight, through pressure, through blood. This was not vengeance born of rage. It was justice. Cold. Deliberate. And the reckoning had only begun. Water spread across the deck in shallow pools, washing away blood, tools, and the last fragments of control. Sea Raven was no longer a vessel. It was a cage. Tilted. Broken. Groaning with every movement. The ocean didn't need to drag them under. It was content to let them collapse, piece by piece. Only 4 men remained. Jack. Matteo. Owen. Briggs, the sonar tech, now slumped with his back to the console, headphones discarded, rocking in silence, mumbling to himself. No one listened. No one could afford to. The world had shrunk to sound. Dripping water. Groaning steel. The occasional thump from below, reminding them the Orcas were still there. Watching. Waiting. They're taking their time, Owen whispered, clutching his rifle to his chest. Why aren't they finishing it? Jack didn't answer. Because he knew. This was the finishing. It wasn't rage driving them. It was discipline. Strategy. Patience. Cairo wasn't killing for revenge. He was dismantling them. Breaking order. Shattering confidence. Until nothing remained but fear. Then, suddenly, crack. The railing at the stern twisted outward with a violent snap. A geyser of seawater burst through the gap as something immense struck the boat again, fast, low, unstoppable. Briggs panicked, stumbling backward. Don't! Jack barked. But it was too late. A black shape surged from below. Not Cairo. Another Orca. Smaller, but no less lethal. It slammed the shattered railing like a battering ram. The deck buckled. Briggs slipped. And in an instant, he was gone. No scream. No splash. Just gone. 3 left. Matteo began sobbing. We're not getting out of here. We will, Jack growled. We hold out. We make ourselves invisible. No noise, no movement. Let them lose interest. But the ocean never loses interest in what it already owns. From the shadows near the bow, Cairo surfaced once more. Slowly. Elegantly. His jagged fin towered above the deck, cutting a silhouette against the sky. His eye glimmered just above the waterline, fixed on Jack, studying him like a man studies a map. Then, with surgical grace, he turned and slipped back under. Stillness. The boat jerked violently, tilting left. Owen screamed as he slid across the slick floor, slamming against the portside rail. A third orca launched upward, jaws snapping inches from his legs. He kicked, scrambled, fired one useless shot into the air. The orca didn't miss the second time. Owen vanished beneath a sheet of red foam. Mateo curled into a ball behind a toppled crate, whispering frantic prayers into his palms. Only Jack stood tall. Wet. Shaking. Unbroken. But even he could feel it. His name was next. The ocean wasn't finished. It was getting personal. Not all predators roar. Some wait. Some calculate. Some break you in silence. The sea had gone still again. No more impacts. No fins circling. No sound at all. Only the broken creak of the sea raven, half submerged, her steel bones bent beyond saving. Jack stood alone. He didn't call for help. Didn't touch the radio. Didn't scream. What was the point? His boots sloshed through ankle-deep water as he stepped over the remnants of the others. Shattered crates. Twisted railings. A lone rifle floating useless beside a blood-streaked ladder. He reached the bow and stared out at the horizon. Quiet. Bright. Final. Then, a ripple. Cairo rose like a ghost. Barely a splash. Just an eye. Just that jagged fin slicing the sunlit water. They locked eyes. Predator and prey. Hunter and judge. Jack dropped to his knees. His hands hung limp at his sides. I was wrong, he whispered. We were all wrong. The orca didn't blink. Didn't move. He just watched. And then, with one push of his tail, Cairo slid beneath the surface. The water stilled. Jack closed his eyes. For a fleeting second, he believed he'd been spared. Then the boat lurched violently upward. The stern lifted. The bow plunged. Jack slid forward, reaching for anything, catching only air. And then he was gone. Swallowed whole by the sea he thought he could conquer. The ocean didn't rage. It didn't scream. It remembered. And in the end, it took back what was never ours to claim. What do you think? Was this just nature defending itself, or something deeper? Something deliberate? Let us know in the comments below. The wreck of the Sea Raven washed ashore 3 days later. No bodies. No survivors. No evidence of attack. Only a hollowed vessel, and a silence so heavy even the wind seemed afraid to speak. There was no investigation. No headlines. Only whispers. Whispers of a hunt turned into a reckoning. Of a sea that watched, and answered. Cairo was never seen again, but some say, if you sail far enough into still waters, on the right kind of morning light, you'll feel it. Not a threat. Not a monster. Just a reminder that the ocean has rules. And when we forget them, it doesn't punish. It waits. And then, it reclaims.